Okay, welcome to the NASA Earthdata webinar, How to Access NASA ASTER and MODIS land products using EarthExplorer. This is your host, Jennifer Brennan. I'm going to give it just a couple more minutes. I've got 2 o'clock Eastern Daylight Savings Time right now. While everybody is logging in, we do have a couple of polls in the bottom left and middle of your screen. If you could take a moment to answer those polling questions, that would be fantastic. There's not a submit button for the poll, so once you select your answer, your vote has been registered. Okay, so I'm going to give it just a couple more minutes. I see that there are quite a few people logging in right now. Okay, everybody. Hello. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jennifer Brennan, the User Support and Communications Lead for the NASA Earth Science Data and Information System, or ESDIS project, here at Goddard Space Flight Center. I'll be your host today. You have joined the NASA Earthdata webinar, How to Access NASA ASTER and MODIS land products using EarthExplorer. Let's begin by going over a few housekeeping items that are related to the webinar. First, with audio, you do have a choice today to listen to audio through the computer as well as via telecom. If you're listening in via telephone, please be sure to mute or turn off your computer speakers. So for those computer speakers that are built in, you can usually find the speaker icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your desktop in the menu bar, and if you left-click, you should be able to mute those. For those who are listening into audio via computer, be sure to mute your telephone speakers for the best audio performance. This will help prevent feedback between the two for participants. I have muted the entire webinar just in case, so the speaker will not be able to hear you. If you do have any issues, please type them into the Q&A pod at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. So I'm hoping you can see my cursor here. This works like a chat. So any questions, any logistics questions, go ahead and type those into this Q&A box next to the 2 polling questions at the bottom. Okay? The webinar will be recorded. I do plan to send a link to the recording out to the participants within a few days of completion. The recordings will also be posted to our Earthdata Adobe Connect catalog URL, and I will provide that URL to all of you at the end. In addition to that, all of the presentation files along with the agenda will be available for download at the end of the webinar. The webinar is an hour long. There'll be 45 minutes that are allocated to the presentation and the live demonstration portion, and then another 15 minutes are allocated for the question and answer period. So after our speaker has finished her presentation, we'll then move to the polling questions. And I do want to note, be sure that you stay on the line or stay in the meeting room to hear the question and answer period, which follows the polls, if you intend to participate in that portion. The polling questions are designed to give us some feedback on today's webinar, but also to help us improve and tailor our content for future webinars. So for questions, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, you will have an opportunity to ask your questions throughout by using the Q&A pod. Right now you see it in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and that will be persistent. The Q&A pod will be on the right-hand side throughout the webinar. Okay, so whenever you have a question, go ahead and type it into the Q&A pod so that we can capture your questions. We will plan to answer all questions verbally at the end of the webinar. We will not take questions verbally during the webinar itself. Due to the size of the webinar and the number of registrants, we will not answer questions using the raising hand function, so that has been disabled. I'd like to now move on to the agenda. Okay, let me go ahead and pull that up. And you have an opportunity here to, make this full screen if you'd like to see it a little bit better. So the first 20 minutes for this particular webinar will provide an overview of the NASA DAAC and their data holdings, and we'll also cover some of the key features and functionality of the EarthExplorer tool. Following that, we'll have 20 minutes, which are dedicated to a live demonstration of the EarthExplorer tool. That will be followed with the 5 minutes for polling questions. It's also a good time if you wanted to take a break before we move to the question and answer period. And then we'll finish with the Q&A period. Now, normally that ends around 3 o'clock. However, I can extend the question and answer period to 3:15 for those of you, depending on how many questions we have, for those of you who are interested in staying on the line, please feel free to stay on the line for that. Okay, so I would like to now turn it over to our speaker, Kelly Lemig, who is the Services Lead at the Land Processes Distributed Active Archive Center, or the DAAC. Kelly?
Well, thanks, Jennifer. I'd like to welcome everyone to the EarthExplorer Data Access webinar. As Jennifer mentioned, my name is Kelly Lemig, and I'm the User Services Lead for the Land Processes DAAC. So I'd like to begin our presentation today by telling you all about who we are, what data we provide, and then we'll go into the features of EarthExplorer, or EE, and then finally the live demo. So let's get started by telling you about who we are. We're the Land Processes Distributed Active Archive Center, or LPDAC. We're one of several discipline-oriented data centers within the NASA Earth Observing System Data and Information Systems, or EOS-DIS. The LPDAC is physically located at the USGS Earth Resources Observation and Science Center in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Here at the LPDAC, we're responsible for the archival and distribution of land processes data collected from the Terra and Aqua satellites as part of NASA's Earth Observing System, or EOS. So let's begin by talking about the MODIS data that we provide. MODIS is the Moderate Resolution Imaging Spectroradiometer, or MODIS, and it's an instrument that's operating on both the Terra and Aqua spacecraft. MODIS has a viewing swath width of 2,330 kilometers and views the entire surface of the Earth every 1 to 2 days. So its detectors measure 36 spectral bands and acquires data at 3 spatial resolutions, as you can see here, 250 meter, 500 meter, and 1 kilometer. Some of the MODIS products available from the LPDAC include surface reflectance products, land cover, thermal anomalies, vegetation indices, and land surface temperature. So here's an example of a MODIS image that was acquired last week of the rim fire in California. So as you can see in this close-up view, and I'll just point out a few features, here's the rim fire down here, and the American fire burning up north. And then these red outlined areas indicate the hot spots where the MODIS sensor detected unusually warm surface temperatures. So here's a listing of, it's a screenshot of some of the MODIS products that we offer. You can see our website's listed here with the MODIS products table. And that table includes a listing of all the MODIS products that we provide, and it's sortable by any of the features that you see here. EarthExplorer currently hosts all the MODIS products, which at this time is about 68 collections. So let's move on to talk about ASTER. ASTER is the Advanced Spaceborne Thermal Emission and Reflection Radiometer, or ASTER. The ASTER instrument is a joint mission between NASA and Japan's Ministry of International Trade and Industry, or METI. ASTER operates on the Terra spacecraft and measures cloud properties, vegetation index, surface mineralogy, soil properties, surface temperature, emissivity, and surface topography. ASTER provides 14 spectral bands with 15-meter, 30-meter, and 90-meter resolutions. And one of the unique features of ASTER is that it doesn't acquire data continuously. Its sensors are activated only to collect specific scenes upon request. So here's an example of an ASTER image. This one was collected over Amsterdam on July 24th, 2012. ASTER products that are available on EarthExplorer include the ASTER Level 1B that covers the United States and the territories, the ASTER Global Digital Elevation Model product, and the North American ASTER Land Surface Emissivity Database, or NALSED. So to give a little history on EE, it was developed by the USGS EROS to allow users access to their archive. LPDAAC began adding datasets just last year, and we're planning for future collections to be offered on EarthExplorer as well. So EE has many features that make it unique from other clients. The primary difference is the ability to order LPDAAC data concurrently with USGS data. So for example, a user might be doing a project where they'd like to compare, say, MODIS with AVHRR, or ASTER and Landsat data, and EE really makes that very easy. Other features that EE has are the map viewer that can overlay both a footprint and a browse image on the map, a simple, fast GUI interface. EE also supports shapefiles and KML area of interest uploads as well as outputs, on-demand product ordering, subscription services, map layer searching, online data access, order tracking, and a customizable interface. So now that we've talked about the features, let's talk about one of the limitations. EE really wasn't designed to deliver large amounts of data. One of the things that they have just implemented was the bulk downloading application, or BDA, where we can order about 500 scenes at a time. So when we go through the live demo, I'll go through that portion and let you know some tricks to kind of get around that. So with that, we'll start the live demo. Okay, so you should all now be looking at the EarthExplorer interface. And we'll just start by pointing out a few features here. Over on the left, you can see that there is a home button. And then along the right, you have login, register, a place where you can give feedback, and also a link to request or to view our help documents. So if I click on the login button here, one thing to note about EarthExplorer is that in order to download any data, you must be logged in. So you'll need to create an account, and once you've done so, we can just log in. And you'll see that it's added some extra features along the left here. And another thing to note would be that if there are any important notifications, for example, if the site were to be unavailable or things like that, there would be a notifications up here in the upper left-hand corner. So let's go on. I'd like to show you what we can do with the profile link here. So if you click on profile, you can see that I have I can find my contact information, the items that I entered when I created an account. I can change my password, and I can also see my affiliation information. But this is also where we can customize the interface. So the most important item here that I'd like to show you is under the interface options, and we can see our result set size and our results per page. One thing to note when you change your result set size is this is going to affect your search performance. So obviously the more result sets that you, or the more results that you will be returning, the longer the search will take. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. I like to keep mine around 500. And then the results per page, it again depends on how many results you like to sift through. If you are planning on ordering a lot of data or ordering all the data that's returned, I'd suggest setting that at 250. So I'm going to leave mine at 50 for this exercise to show you kind of how this works. Also in the profile, you can see that we can customize some other options. So I can check here and see what data sets are displayed. So if there are too many or if there are certain ones that I only want to see, I can check on those. I can also click on Sort Order. And this is a really neat feature. I can select the data product that I'm interested in. And then when I click Result Metadata, this is how I can sort how my results are displayed. So for example, if you want your results sorted by acquisition date, you can enable that here, as well as tile numbers, latitude, longitude. There are very many things that you can sort your results on. So then we would just click Save. And another option is the metadata view. This is along the same lines where you can click on the collection that you're interested in, and then we can choose what metadata is displayed. So by default, you can see that all of the metadata is active. Also in Profile, we have our option to save criteria. So if there's a search that you find yourself running often, you can rerun that saved criteria. And along the same lines, if there's an area of interest that you have that you are looking to be notified whenever there's data that's ingested that matches your description, we can put in a standing request. So let's go back to the home, and we will start going through some of the features of EarthExplorer and how you would actually place a search. So as you can see here, our search criteria, we have several options to define our area. So we have the address place, and I can type in, say I can type in the Denver airport here. Okay. So now you see I can click on the Denver airport down below, and it puts a pin in the map. And I'm just using my scroll wheel here on my mouse, or you can use the zoom in and zoom out buttons over here on the left. So as I zoom in, you can see that there's my pin. Now, if I don't want that pin, or if it's something I've changed my mind on, I can click this X button right here, and it disappears. So say I wanted the Sioux Falls port instead. I click that, and there we go. And I'm zoomed right directly to that point. Other ways that you can search here, you can use the path row if you are a Landsat user and you're familiar with the path row. Or another interesting search tool here is the feature. So you can see I have US features and I have world features. So features would include things like cemeteries, churches, airports. You can select any of these items and do your search that way. So I'm going to clear that, and I'm going to show you now another way to search. which is you can do coordinates. So you see you have the options between degree, minutes, seconds, and decimal. Or another area is predefined area. So these are some predefined shapes that are loaded, and I'll click on Add Shape. And you see I'm in the United States, and I will select South Dakota, county, and there's Lincoln County. So when I click Add, you see on the map the red area that outlines Lincoln County. The one thing to keep in mind on this feature is that you are not able to load more than one shape at the same time. So in this case, you'll notice that I've got part of Sioux Falls, the southern part of Sioux Falls, but I don't have all of Sioux Falls. And so if I wanted to add, for example, Minnehaha County to get everything, I wouldn't be able to do that. But what you could do is upload a shapefile. You have the option of uploading your shapefile here or even a KML file. But keep in mind that these files are limited to 30 points. So let's go back, and I'm going to go back and load my Lincoln County shape again. And now let's talk about our date range options. So I can search from, the default here shows from 1920 to 2013. But one of the features that I really want to highlight to you is the ability to search seasonally. So I'm going to change this, and I'm going to go back, say, 2008. And for example, if I wanted all of the summer months, I can check off the all, and I can click June, July, and August. And that will return June, July, and August every year from 2008 to 2013. So I'm going to go back and click all just to maximize our results for this webinar. And another thing I'd like to show you is this Results Options tab. So I can click on the number of records to return. So remember when we were up at our profile, we could select it up there, but if you didn't do it then, you can have the opportunity to do it right here. So let's click on the Datasets tab. So there are a few things to talk about here on the Datasets tab. You can use what's called a dataset pre-filter. So this dataset pre-filter is listed over here. If I click on that, you'll notice that it'll down select the data collections that actually match my criteria. So that's very helpful for you to narrow down whether or not you're going to receive any results. So you can see I have 145 data sets out of 206 that were hidden by the pre-filter. So I can always go back and show if I want to see something that was removed. So let me go down and show you the NASA LPDAC collections are listed towards the bottom. And you can see I have a tree structure here. I have a plus and a minus, and I can expand these different data collections. Another thing I'd like to point out here is that there's this little information button that you can click. So if you're not sure exactly what type of data that you're looking for, you can click this little I button, and it'll bring you back to the Land Processes DAAC website, and it'll bring you directly to that product page. And that product page will give you lots of information about the specific data set, some of the characteristics, layers that would be included, and so on. So let's go back, and I'd like to I'm going to click on this MODIS Vegetation Indices product, and I'm going to click on some ASTER products. So I want to show you this data set message that comes up. Some of our data sets have messages or warnings that are associated with them. So for example, this ASTER Global DEM will show you that it has some data restrictions and that you need to be aware of. So any information like this will be posted in this pop-up message here. And once you've gone ahead and read what the information says, you go ahead and click the OK button, and we've got our data set selected. So I'm going to click on the ASTER Level 1B too, and that one also has a data set message that we can click OK. Okay. So that's how you would down select your data sets. Now we can move on to the next tab, and this tab is optional. This is the Additional Criteria tab, and this tab allows us to do several things. So you'll see under Data Sets I have a drop-down box here. Now this lists all of the data sets that I've just down selected. Remember I selected the Global DAAC, the ASTER Level 1B, and the MODIS Mid 13A1. So I can select different parameters for each one of these data sets. So for example, if I click the ASTER Level 1B, I have the option to narrow down by cloud cover, the day-night flag, the entity ID or the granule ID. And MODIS is, I can constrain my search by tile numbers, and again, the day-night indicators. So if you'd like to do any of that down selecting, you can do that right here. Otherwise, we can move on to the Results tab. Okay, so here on the Results tab, you see that I have some result controls. I have a list of the data sets, and then here are my results. So I'd like to show you the result controls first. I can click the down arrow here, and you'll see that I have a few options. I can show all the footprints that were returned on the current page, as well as all the browse. And I can add all the results from the current page to the bulk download. And I'll talk about that again in a minute, and that's an important one, and that's where we were talking before about having your data sets listed out all on one page. So let's go down, and I will show you if I add this browse image. Now you can get a feel for how large this, this granule actually is. But you'll notice that you can't see anything behind it. So another nice option that EarthExplorer provides is this browse, and you can change the transparency down. So if I change it down to say 50%, you can see that I can actually look at what area it covers. So did it cover my entire search area? So let's look at the MODIS data. So when the MODIS data comes up, you see my results down here. Let's scroll down a bit here. So you can see all of my data set results. We also have a little tool right here. It says displaying 1 through 10 out of 260. So if I had more results than I had allowed in my search, I could click this info button, and it would tell me exactly how many results would come back. So let's see. If ASTER has 25 results for this area. So you can see that can be very useful to tell you exactly how many scenes were returned or how large your order would be. So let's go down. I'd like to show you some features of your results set here. What we show is a browse image of the data, which I can click on. And that'll bring up a pop-up that will show me the browse imagery, and it'll also show me the metadata. So I can close that, and I'll go through these icons down below to tell you about what these features are. So this little foot is the show footprint icon. So you can see, here's our little red area right here. And here's our large footprint. Here's our MODIS tile right here. So if you click on multiple footprints, you can see they have different colors. And the colors correspond to what color my foot turned over here. So I can turn these off. And now say, for example, that I'd like to show the browse overlay. So if I click that button, you can see my browse image overlaid on the map. And again, we can adjust the transparency to make it darker or lighter. Another one of these options that we have down here is the Show Metadata and Browse, which does the same thing as clicking on the picture to the left. Or if you know you'd like this image, you can click the download options. So when we click the download options, we get a pop-up box here where we can download either the data or the metadata. And we just select the radio button here, select the download option, and we'll be prompted to download and save that scene to our hard drive. Now, say you want more data. I can click on this drive button here. See this gold disk button. And this is what we call the bulk data access, or BDA. So I can go through and I can be selective about the data sets that I want to add to my BDA. Or I promised I would tell you about this add all results from the current page to bulk download. So when I select that button, I'll scroll down and show you. Every one of those is highlighted in green now, so I know that they've all been added to the BDA. But it's just for that page. So you see when I go to the next page, none of these have been checked. I can do that again. I can click add all results from the current page, and I can do that all along these 260 results. Or we could set in our profile a larger number of results to show per page. So like I said before, if we have our set to 250 results per page, then we could do this. We could click on that just twice, and we would have our 500 granules to be added to the bulk downloader. So adding items to the BDA or the bulk downloader is like adding your granules to the cart. So you see up here I have 20 items in my item basket. I can click up here on my item basket that way, or I can view my item basket down here. So let's go to the view item basket, and you see here's the product that I'm ordering, and then I'll have some options to choose. Again, you can choose on downloading the data or the metadata. And once I've selected all that, I can proceed to the checkout. And when you submit your order, if you haven't already done so, you'll be prompted to download the BDA tool to your hard drive. And what this allows you to do is to download the data as a bulk download so that you don't have to click on each individual granule, save it to your hard drive, go to the next, and so on and so forth. So here you would download the tool and put it on your hard drive, and you'd be able to save that to your hard drive wherever you'd like. So let's go back. And another thing that I'd like to show you is submitting a standing request. So I can click on this button down here called Submit Standing Request. And the name would be the name of the request. So if you wanted to title it Sioux Falls Airport, for example, we could do that. And frequency is how frequently you'd like to receive a notification that data was ingested that matches your criteria. So we can choose, you can see daily, a couple of times a day, weekly, monthly, or quarterly. Here's where you would enter in the date range of your standing request. So if I want it to run from, say, tomorrow till the end of the year, and then we have the search start date. So we can go in the past if any data happens to be ingested for our area that was collected, say, in the past few years, or we can change that to 2013. And then we would just click on Submit Standing Request. And now you see what I was showing you before up in the profile. You see now I've added a standing request called Sioux Falls Airport, and it tells me all of my my stats about if it's new, how frequently, when it was run, and I'd like to turn this back to Jennifer for the poll questions, and I'd like to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, we finished actually a little.
Okay, we should be stopped.
Can you try again?
Okay, so can you still see my screen?
I can still see. There we go. Okay, fantastic. So we finished a couple minutes early, but we've got a series of 4 polling questions here. For the short answer questions, there is a submit button to the right of where you would type your answer in. So you would just click on that after you've typed in your answer. So if people could take a few minutes to fill these out, and then we will go ahead and move to the question and answer period. So for those of you interested in the question and answer period, which follows the polling here, be sure to stay on the line or in the meeting room to participate in that. We'll give it just a couple more minutes. Thank you. Okay, well, why don't we go ahead and move to the question and answer period here. A little bit more movement. Give it a couple seconds. You can also feel free to email me with any suggestions at the jennifer.l.brennan@nasa.gov. All right, let's move on to the question and answer period. That I do want to thank all of you for joining us today. I do have a webinar calendar set up at the tiny URL link here you see on the left-hand side of the screen, and that will contain the recording not only for today's webinar, but also those webinars that have taken place. Can people hear me?
The conference is now.
Can people hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yep.
All right.
The conference is now in silent mode.
Okay. So I did have, it looks like there's a little bit of trouble with, can people hear me right now? Okay. All right, fantastic. Thank you. I'm not sure what happened. Why don't we go ahead? I don't see any questions about the tool yet, but I do want to point out to you in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, I have the PowerPoint presentation that's been uploaded. So you can feel free to, download that file, as well as the agenda. And as I was saying, and I interrupted myself, not only do we have this particular webinar posted to the tinyURL link that I've provided on the left, but we also have our archived webinars that have taken place before now, dating back to the, I believe it was the end of May. So we've got some physical oceanography, data product and data access webinars, a Giovanni webinar as well, and also the last one in July was focused on the MODIS subsetting and visualization tool, which is a partnership between the LPDAAC and the Oak Ridge National Laboratory DAAC. So let's go ahead and see. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read the questions here. There's a question from Andrew, not really about the tool. So the question is, from the top of your head, are there options to access MODIS snow product data from the EarthExplorer? So Kelly?
Not at this time. So currently we only have the land product processes data from LPDAAC available on EE.
But Andrew, the MODIS snow product data can be accessed through a variety of other tools. I don't know if you had been to the National Snow and Ice Data Center. I'll type that in here. Let's see here. I'll type that in for everybody. And hopefully you can all see this. Does everyone see the URL here? It's nsidc.org. There is a cross data center tool. If you'd like, I can, and also email you separately about this. And there are some NSIDC specific tools that would allow you to easily, download those data products. Any other questions? I'm going to take the conference off mute here for a minute since we've got only about 25 people on the line, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Hold on just a second.
The conference is now in talk mode.
Okay, any questions from anybody?
Hello, this is Dick Braga from USGS.
Hi.
Hi. I have a question on the bulk download tool.
Sure.
Is that bulk download tool available? Is it available now? And does it work for all of the data sets that are in EarthExplorer?
Kelly, did you have an answer to that? You don't
Okay,
have,
can you hear me now?
Okay, there we go.
Okay, sorry. So the bulk downloading tool is available right now, and when you get to the results tab, you'll see, if you see that gold disk item, that shows the products that are available for bulk downloading, and not all of them are. I know for example, for us, the ASTER L1B I don't think is available through that bulk downloading tool just yet.
Is the intention that they eventually will be, and it's just a matter of staging different products to get in there then?
I'm not sure for the L1B. It's something that we could definitely look into to get into the bulk downloading tool, though.
Any other questions?
I have a follow-on to the bulk downloading question. This is Becca up at ASF
Sure.
with the SARDAC. With the bulk downloading tool, is it compatible with all browsers, or does it have some that it works better with than others?
It does, and those will be listed up in the Help tab on the EarthExplorer tool. Let me see if I can show you that. Right now. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so we have this bulk download help up here, and it has the installation. There's also just a link to download the tool. And let me see. So it does have instructions on how to install it on the Windows machines. I don't think it's really about the browser. It's more about, because it's something that's locally installed on your machine, it's not actually run through the browser.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
I think so.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Anything that you would have liked to have seen as far as the feature of this tool that you feel like wasn't shown today?
Hi, this is Jeff Prevett down at NOAA. I don't have a question about that, but that tiny URL you had going to the calendar of events,
Yes.
is that somewhere else, or I didn't get that. I wasn't able to copy it off the screen.
Oh, sure, sure. I will type it in right now.
Okay,
No
thanks.
problem. Hold on just a second. Okay, can everybody see that? So it's tinyurl.com Earthdata webinar.
Thank you.
Sure. It's nothing fancy at the moment, but you do have the presentation materials. Some of the earlier webinars had some animations, and those are also posted. And always feel free to email me at any time with suggestions or recommendations for future topics. No other questions? Well, I guess we'll finish this webinar a little bit early if there aren't any further questions. Again, feel free to email me with any suggestions, or feedback. That would be great. I'm trying to actually get a mechanism linked to the Adobe Connect catalog that allows people to sign up, to be on a mailing list in advance, so that you would receive announcements if you opt into that type of feature for future webinars. Being new to the Adobe Connect application just over the last couple of months, I'm not quite sure whether or not that's a possibility, but I will, if it is, it'll be linked to the tinyurl Earthdata webinar catalog. All right, well, thank you, everybody. If there aren't any further questions, I don't see any at the moment, then we will go ahead and conclude this webinar. And I thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Very, very helpful.
All right, fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, bye-bye.